This isn't motivation. This isn't self-help. This is shadow work, a psychological journey into everything we've avoided and the silent price we've paid for it. It's based on the truth Carl Jung tried to tell us, but most never hear, not because they can't, but because they're not ready. If you're here, maybe you are. This is not just a video. This is a confrontation. It lives inside you. A film by Phil Reel. Close the door. Sit in the silence. Don't reach for your phone. Don't check your thoughts. Just sit. Feel it. That thing. The flicker beneath your ribs. The unease you've never quite named. It's not loud. It's not sharp. But it's always there. Like a shadow that never moves no matter how bright the room is. You've spent your life building walls around it. You gave it a name, anxiety, stress, trauma. But it isn't satisfied. It waits. It watches. It lives inside you. You think you've grown. You meditate. You read books. You journal. You've talked to therapists, whispered your pain through cracked voices. You've repeated affirmations like spells, but it's still there. And deep down, you know why. Because you've never looked it in the eye, the part of you that you deny. The rage, the jealousy, the need to be seen, the hunger to control, the wounds that never healed. You buried them. You thought burying meant healing. You were wrong. Carl Jung called it the shadow. Not just your darkness, but the truth about yourself you refuse to accept. Not evil, but rejected. Not wrong, just unclaimed. You've built your identity around avoidance. You wear masks. You smile at the right moments. You say, I'm fine so well. Even your pain believes you. But underneath, something screams, not to hurt you, but to be heard. And until you face it, it will rule you. It chooses your relationships. It whispers in your decisions. It sabotages your joy and justifies your misery. And worst of all, it convinces you that this is normal. But what if healing isn't about fixing yourself? What if it's about finally sitting in the room with your own silence and listening to the thing you've avoided your whole life? What if that thing isn't a monster? What if it's just the part of you that was never loved? You weren't born hiding from yourself. You learned it. The moment you felt shame, you split. The moment your anger scared someone, you buried it. The moment your sadness was met with silence, you swallowed it. That's how it begins. We are trained to be acceptable, not whole. From a young age, we're rewarded for suppression, for being nice instead of honest, quiet instead of expressive, pleasing instead of real. And so, piece by piece, the parts of you that didn't fit were locked away. You didn't erase them, you just hid them, but they didn't disappear. Carl Jung warned, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. The unconscious isn't some mystical realm. It's the storage room of every truth you refuse to feel. It's where the shadow lives. Not evil, not broken, just unseen. Jung believed the shadow holds your greatest potential, not because it's noble, but because it's real, because it's the only part of you you've never edited. You see, what you repress gains power. What you deny becomes your master, and what you're unwilling to feel will one day control you. That's why you sabotage the things you want most. That's why you feel empty even after achievement. That's why every relationship feels like a repetition of the same wound. But this isn't just psychology, it's philosophy. Friedrich Nietzsche spoke of the abyss. He said, "Whoever fights monsters should see to it that he does not become one. And if you gaze long into the abyss also gazes into you." The abyss is your inner world. When you look into yourself, you risk becoming overwhelmed. But if you don't look, you'll live in illusion. A life of projection, where your own darkness becomes the enemy you see in others. It's easier to say they hurt me than to say I let this repeat. Easier to say I'm just unlucky than to admit I'm afraid of healing. But the truth is, healing terrifies you because it means meeting the version of you that was never accepted. It means making peace with the child that cried alone. It means admitting, I am not who I pretend to be. That's the root of the problem. Not pain, but avoidance. Not trauma, but disconnection. Not evil, but rejection of truth. You've been looking for answers everywhere but inside. But the path isn't outward. It's inward, toward the wound you swore to ignore. The shadow isn't the enemy. It's the part of you waiting to be reintegrated, not to make you perfect, but to make you whole. You think you're in control. You make choices, set goals, build habits. But what if the real driver of your life is hidden? What if your shadow writes the script and you're just reading the lines? Every time you feel unworthy, you overachieve to compensate. Every time you feel unseen, you chase attention disguised as connection. Every time you feel powerless, you try to control what doesn't belong to you, and it feels normal, because the shadow doesn't shout. It whispers through your instincts, your impulses, your patterns. You don't notice it, because it hides behind what the world rewards. You get praised for working too hard, applauded for sacrificing your needs, admired for being endlessly strong. But underneath it all, you're exhausted, and you don't know why. This is the cost of unconscious living. You build your life around your wounds, your relationships around your triggers, your success around your fear of failure. And the worst part, you believe it's who you are, that you're just like this, that love must always feel unsafe, that peace is something people like you don't get. But that's not true. It's just what happens when you've never made the unconscious conscious. Let's talk about the brain. Neurologically, your brain is built to protect you, not to free you. It learns through repetition, not truth. It memorizes pain so it can avoid it in the future. And so, even if something is killing your soul, your mind may still call it safe, because it's familiar. This is why people return to the same toxic dynamics, why they recreate what hurt them, why they sabotage what could heal them. Because the brain chooses survival over authenticity, and culture makes it worse. We are surrounded by distractions, constant noise, scrolling, performance, comparison, a system built to numb the inner world, a world that profits from your disconnection. It teaches you to fear discomfort, to fix, filter, reframe, and fake. But healing doesn't happen by escaping. It happens by turning toward the pain, by giving voice to the parts of you that were never heard, by standing still long enough for the truth to rise. Not the polished truth, the raw truth, the one you buried under strength, smiles, and stories. Because until you see the shadow clearly, you will continue to live its consequences. The same arguments, the same emptiness, the same ache behind your eyes that no one else can see. This isn't fate, it's just the cost of silence. You were never meant to stay broken. The cracks in you aren't signs of weakness. They're invitations to stop performing and start remembering, to stop fixing and start feeling. The rebellion doesn't begin with violence. It begins with honesty. The T.O. moment you say, "I'm not okay," you fracture the illusion. The moment you stop numbing and start noticing, the war shifts. Because now, you're conscious, and that makes you dangerous. Dangerous to the patterns that kept you trapped. To the voices that taught you to shrink. To the beliefs that whispered, "You'll never be enough." But this isn't a self-help checklist. This is war against your false self. The version of you that was built to survive. The one who learned to smile through pain, to please to be loved, to shrink to be accepted. You thank it, then you bury it, and in its place, you build something real. Jung didn't tell us to destroy the shadow. He told us to integrate it, to bring it home. That's the rebellion, to reclaim what was lost, to welcome what was shamed, to be whole, not perfect. How? You sit with your anger without apologizing. You feel your grief without fixing it. You speak your truth without softening the edges. And you do it again and again and again until it stops feeling like rebellion and starts feeling like freedom. You stop asking, "How do I become better?" and start asking, "What have I abandoned?" You stop trying to rise above your pain and instead descend into it, not to suffer, but to listen. Because your shadow isn't just darkness. It's the part of you that holds your instinct, your depth, your fire. It knows what you want before you can say it. It knows when you're lying to yourself. It knows what you were born for, but you've silenced it for so long. You forgot it had a voice. Now you begin again, with truth, with discomfort, with wholeness. You stop pretending. You stop performing. You stop running. You look in the mirror, and this time you don't flinch. That's where healing begins. Not in comfort, but in confrontation. Not in perfection, but in presence. This is not about becoming someone new. You've been searching for answers. In books, in gurus, in podcasts and pills. You've tried to change your thoughts, change your habits, change your life. But the truth? You didn't need to be changed. You needed to be reclaimed. The parts of you that you locked away, the anger, the grief, the hunger, the softness, they weren't mistakes. They were messages. They were the map back to yourself. Carl Jung didn't say, "Be good." He said, "Be whole." And wholeness is messy. It's not linear. It's not pretty. It's not easy to monetize or turn into steps. It looks like breaking. It looks like silence. It looks like crying for no reason and laughing in your pain. It looks like finally looking at yourself and not turning away. Because here's the truth no one wants to say. Healing doesn't always feel good. Sometimes it feels like dying. And in a way, it is. It's the death of who you thought you had to be. The death of the mask. The death of the performance. And in that death, something is reborn. Not someone better. Someone real. You awaken not by running toward the light, but by standing still long enough for the darkness to speak. And when it does, you finally understand. You were never broken. You were buried, under expectations, under conditioning, under fear. And the moment you stop digging for solutions and simply sit in the ruin, you begin to rise, not because someone taught you how, but because it's what you were always meant to do. This is the paradox. What you've spent your life avoiding was never here to harm you. It was here to return you to yourself. So now, you don't run from your shadow. You walk beside it. You don't silence your wounds. You learn their language. You don't perform. Healing, you embody it. And for the first time, you feel peace. Not because the pain is gone, but because it no longer owns you. This is the truth. You won't heal by becoming more. You'll heal by becoming you, fully, fiercely, finally. You've reached the end. But this was never about endings. This was a return to what you buried, to what you denied, to what still lives inside you. Healing doesn't come with applause. It comes with silence and the courage to sit in it. You don't need to become someone new. You just need to remember who you were before the world told you who to be. So stop running, stop fixing, just feel and begin again. Thank you for walking this path. If this spoke to you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it, subscribe, and keep going. Because the shadow isn't the enemy, it's the part of you still waiting to come home.